They say money doesn't change people, it just reveals who they really are. When I won $9 million, I thought life had finally smiled on me. But in the blink of an eye, I lost everything, not to a stranger, but to the woman I called my wife. My name is David Miller, and this story takes place in Chicago, a city that never sleeps, never forgives, and never lets you forget who you used to be. For years, I was the guy who worked quietly, clocking in at a car repair shop at 7 a.m., smelling of oil, sweat, and coffee that was always too bitter. Life wasn't bad, it was just ordinary. My wife, Rachel, worked part-time as a realtor. We lived in a modest two-bedroom apartment just outside the city. We weren't rich, but we were happy, or at least I thought we were. Every Friday night after a long week, I'd grab a beer, sit on the couch, and scratch a few lottery tickets just for fun. It wasn't about winning. It was about hope, that tiny spark of what if that keeps a man going. Until one night, it actually happened. I'll never forget the date, April 14th. I scratched the last card on the counter, barely paying attention. But then, the numbers lined up. All of them. I thought it was a misprint. My hands started shaking. I scanned it on the app and there it was. $9 million. I dropped the phone. I couldn't breathe. My whole body went numb. Rachel walked in, saw my face, and thought someone had died. When I told her, she screamed, not from disbelief but pure excitement. She jumped into my arms, crying, laughing, shaking. For a moment it felt like a fairy tale. But fairy tales always hide the monsters in the mirror. The next few days were chaos. News spread. Friends called. Distant relatives I hadn't heard from in years suddenly wanted to catch up. Even our landlord dropped off a bottle of champagne at our door. Rachel started planning everything: the new house, the car, vacations. I wanted to move slow. I told her I didn't want to lose who we were before the money. She smiled, said, "Of course, baby. We'll stay grounded." But her eyes told a different story. Within a week, she'd found a mansion in the suburbs, $2.4 million. She called it our dream home. I called it too much. But she said, "David, you earned this. Let's live a little." I gave in. Because love makes you blind. And when you're blinded by love, you don't see the knife until it's already in your back. We moved into the house that summer. Marble floors. A pool. A view of the skyline. It felt unreal. But the thing about dreams? They don't last. Rachel started changing, subtly at first. Designer clothes. Constantly glued to her phone. New friends from high-end realtor circles. Fancy brunches. Late-night business dinners. I told myself it was fine. She was just excited. We were adjusting. But one night, while she was in the shower, her phone buzzed on the bed. I saw a message pop up. "Can't wait to see you again, gorgeous." Same sweet. My heart froze. I felt a kind of pain I can't describe. It wasn't anger, it was disbelief. I waited until she came out, wrapped in a towel, smiling like nothing was wrong. And I asked, "Who's Michael?" She froze. The blood drained from her face. Then she tried to laugh it off. "Oh, just a client," she said. But the tremble in her voice told the truth. I didn't scream. I didn't accuse. I just watched her, and I saw everything. The guilt. The lies. The woman I thought I knew was a stranger wearing my wife's face. Over the next few weeks, I started digging. Hotel receipts. Hidden credit cards. She was seeing a man named Michael Turner, one of her wealthy clients. And worse, they weren't just having an affair. They were plotting something. I found an email. Drafted but not sent. It was from Rachel to Michael. "Once the transfer clears, we can disappear. He'll never see it coming." That's when I realized she wasn't just cheating. She was planning to take everything. Every single dollar. I wanted to confront her. I wanted to break something, scream, anything. But instead I stayed quiet. Because in that silence I found clarity. I realized the truth. When someone you love betrays you, you don't destroy them in anger. You destroy them in silence, with precision. So I acted. The first rule of revenge? Never let them know you're watching. I played the part. The clueless, kind husband. I smiled at her. Bought her gifts. Let her believe she was winning. Meanwhile, I met with a lawyer. Quietly. Discreetly. I found out that Rachel had already tried to transfer $5 million into a joint account she secretly shared with Michael. But here's the thing, the lottery money was in my name only. Without my approval, the transfer couldn't be completed. So I let her keep trying. Then I started creating a paper trail, messages, bank statements, video footage. I even installed hidden cameras in her office. I watched her meet Michael. I watched her hand him envelopes. I watched them kiss in the car that I had bought. The hardest part wasn't watching the betrayal. It was pretending it didn't hurt. One night she came home late, smelling like cologne. I looked her in the eye and said, "Ratch, I've been thinking. Maybe we should open that joint account you talked about." Her eyes lit up. She thought she'd won. Over the next week we went to the bank. Signed papers. Laughed. Kissed for the cameras. What she didn't know was that I'd set up a fake account. One that looked real but was completely under my control. Every move she made, every dollar she tried to pull was being tracked. 2 days later she transferred $4.9 million, right into my trap. And just like that, I had all the proof I needed. But I wasn't done. Not yet. I wanted her to feel what betrayal feels like. So I gave her exactly what she'd planned for me: destruction. It was a Friday evening when I told her I was flying to New York for a business meeting. I kissed her goodbye, watched her wave from the door, and drove off. Except, I didn't go anywhere. I parked a few blocks away. Waited. And within an hour, Michael pulled into the driveway. They thought they were safe. Laughing. Drinking wine. Packing suitcases. I watched through the cameras on my phone as they celebrated my departure. What they didn't know was that every moment, every touch, every word, was being recorded. Then came the call. I dialed 911 anonymously. "Hello, I'd like to report a possible theft and fraud scheme. Here's the address." By the time I walked back into the house, police lights were flashing. Rachel's face was white as a ghost. Michael was handcuffed on the porch, shouting that it was a mistake. Rachel turned to me, crying, trembling. "David, what's happening?" I looked her dead in the eyes and said, "You tell me, Rachel. You're the one who wanted to disappear. The cops found everything: the hidden account, the forged documents, the transfer trail." And just like that, her dream of a new life vanished. Rachel was arrested for fraud, conspiracy, and theft. Michael too. The court case dragged on for months. She tried to paint me as controlling, manipulative, even abusive. But the evidence was too strong. When the verdict came, I didn't celebrate. I didn't smile. I just listened. She was sentenced to 7 years in prison. Michael got 10. The judge asked if I wanted to make a statement. I stood up, looked at Rachel, and said, "You tried to steal my money. But what you really stole was my peace. You betrayed a man who would have given you the world. I hope you find the soul you sold for $9 million. She cried. For the first time, I saw fear in her eyes, not guilt, not regret, but fear of the emptiness she'd created. After the trial, I went back to the house. The silence was deafening. The echo of everything we'd been still lingered in the walls. But I didn't feel broken anymore. I felt reborn. I sold the mansion. Donated half the money to charity. Bought a small cabin in Montana, far from the noise. And for the first time in years, I slept peacefully. They say revenge doesn't heal you, but sometimes it restores you. I didn't destroy her out of hate. I did it to remind her, and myself, that love built on lies will always collapse under its own weight. If you've ever been betrayed, you know it's not the loss that hurts. It's the moment you realize the person you trusted most was the one digging your grave. But here's what I learned. You can survive anything: betrayal, heartbreak, loss, if you learn to let the pain sharpen you, not poison you. I don't look at the $9 million as a curse anymore. It was a mirror, one that showed me who was real and who was just pretending to love me. So to anyone watching this, remember, the most dangerous thieves don't wear masks. They say, "I love you." Most people think that when justice is served, the pain just disappears. But no one tells you about the silence afterward. The kind that sits in your chest like a stone. The kind that whispers, "She almost destroyed you." After the trial, I kept expecting life to snap back to normal. But there is no normal after the person you trusted most tries to erase you from your own future. For weeks, I wandered that empty mansion, the one she wanted so badly, haunted by memories that didn't belong to me anymore. Ghosts of laughter that was fake. I'd look at the dining table and remember cooked meals she didn't even eat because she was too busy working late, in someone else's arms. I was grieving a woman who was never real. I was grieving a marriage I had built alone. One evening, I stood in the giant living room, all marble and empty echoes. I whispered into the silence. Was any of it real? And the walls threw the question right back at me. So I packed a suitcase. I walked out the door. And I didn't look back. I drove for hours, through cities, farmlands, fields, and forests, until the world felt quiet enough that I could hear myself think again. Montana was never the plan. But sometimes the best decisions are accidents dressed up as fate. I bought a small cabin near a lake. No cameras, no alarms, no marble, no lies. Just wood, wind, and wide open sky. The The kind of place where stars don't hide behind skyscrapers. And here's what I realized. You can buy a house, not a home. You can marry a person, not their heart. You can win millions and still lose everything that matters. But you can also rebuild, stronger than before. I thought I'd never see Rachel again. I thought prison would swallow her completely. But life loves unfinished business. 2 years later I got a letter. Handwritten. Shaky handwriting, her handwriting. I'm sorry, David. I know you'll never forgive me. But please, I need to understand. Why did you help the police arrest me? Why didn't you just leave? I stared at that letter for hours, laughing a little, crying a little more. Why? Because she had planned to leave me with nothing, not just the money but dignity, freedom, identity, even sanity. She'd planned to erase me like I was disposable. So I wrote back, one sentence. Because you tried to bury me, and I needed you to see me rise. A month later she requested a visit. Against every instinct I went. In the prison visitation room she looked smaller. The expensive hair dye had faded. The designer clothing gone. Her arrogance replaced with wrinkled regret. For the first time since I'd met her, she looked human. David, she whispered, voice cracking. I loved you. I swear I did. Maybe you did, I said. But you loved money more. She reached across the table, a pathetic, trembling reach, but I didn't move. You ruined my life, she sobbed. I leaned forward and looked her dead in the eyes. You ruined ours long before I fought back. And I stood up and walked away. This time I did look back, and I saw her break into tears that came from a place deeper than guilt. Maybe from shame. Maybe from the pieces of a soul she sold for $. But that wasn't my burden anymore. Healing isn't loud. It's not fireworks. It's not victory music. It's slow mornings with hot coffee and quiet lakes. It's learning to trust yourself again. It's looking at the future and finally feeling something other than fear. I started volunteering at a local school, teaching kids basic auto repair. They remind me of who I used to be, hopeful, determined, naive in the best way. And sometimes a neighbor asks how a simple mechanic affords such a beautiful lake cabin. I just smile and say, good luck, and a second chance. People think revenge is about destroying your enemy. But real revenge? Real revenge is rebuilding a life they can't touch. Rachel sits behind bars, staring at concrete walls, while I wake up every day to mountains and sunrise. Her nights are filled with regrets, while mine are filled with stars. Money didn't give me peace. Justice did. Closure did. Knowing that I stood back up after she tried to crush me, did. If I'd let her walk away with my heart bleeding out behind her, she would have won. Instead, I chose to live. Not despite what she did, but because of it. If you're listening to my story right now, I want you to hear this. Don't let betrayal turn you into someone you're not. Don't let pain make you cruel. Don't let someone else's greed steal your goodness. Stand up. Heal slow. Rebuild strong. And never forget, the greatest comeback is a life they can never destroy. If this story touched your heart, if it made you rethink love, trust, or betrayal, tell me in the comments. What would you have done if you were me? Your support means everything. Please like, share, and subscribe, so more people can hear stories like this. Help this channel reach 5,000 subscribers. Because together we're turning pain into power, and betrayal into lessons that shape our future. Thank you for listening. And remember, sometimes the person meant to love you is the reason you learn to love yourself.